Hey everyone, this is Kurt Frankum with Leading Saints, and we're doing a quick follow-up Facebook Live as we promised. I'm here with Jen Roach. How are you, Jen?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. You've been on the podcast circuit on every. I mean, your expertise was sort of made for moments like this, and you've been busy, huh?
I've been a little busy. Yeah.
Well, I hope you're fitting in some sleep there. But
Thank you.
as we get started here, and if people are watching this later, not live, obviously put some questions and comments in the comment section. If you are watching live, we'd love to um, take your questions and see if we can bring some clarity. Jen has studied every inch of this case or this article that was written in the AP, and definitely, if there's anybody at least knows at least where to begin to find answers and clarity, or where we just don't have answers, Jen's the person to do that. So we hope you'll participate that way. And since our conversation, Jen, like I said on the podcast, and if you, this is a follow up conversation, so we're assuming people who are watching this at least know about our conversation we had on the Leading Saints podcast published this past Saturday, and we talked about the AP article written about a specific case of child abuse related to the church and whatnot. So that's where we're going from. So if you're confused at any point, go back to that episode. But maybe just give us like a 30-second rundown of what this is all about.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, what the case is all about or what the update is all about?
All the case is about. Yeah. Summary.
So family in Arizona, 2 of the daughters got abused by the dad. It's in the news now because the girls who were abused are suing the church, saying the church should have done more. And so it's brought to light this idea about the church's helpline and what that is. Here's just the reality of the situation. We have so many questions that are unanswered. I have a list of about 35 of them, right? And that list is growing every single day. We need to know this. I need a document for this. I need a document for that, right? So last night, really actually quite lucky, I was pleased with this. The AP releases a video of one of the bishops. There's 2 bishops in this case. There's one, and then he's released naturally, normally, not because of anything bad, and then another bishop comes. So bishop number 1 is in a video that the AP released last night. It's fantastic. It answers a lot of our questions, but it also sort of brings up some new ones. It has the bishop in his own voice saying that the helpline told him he was not allowed to call and his hands were tied. He goes on to say that he passes this information on to the next bishop. And this is really helpful for us to know. It explains some of the odd behaviors here. For whatever reason, this bishop had an understanding he was not allowed to call. You can, if you watch the AP video, you see his understanding is unless there's another witness to this, unless the dad or the mom are willing to call, my hands are tied, right? So that actually, it's a really helpful video because it gives us that piece of information. However, it's presented in a package in a very specific way. We get one quote from the bishop, and that's one quote out of a much larger document, a document I don't have access to, so I can't provide you with what is the extra context here. But they give us one quote surrounded by 9 minutes of extremely carefully chosen images and music that's intended. Every single thing in there, it's well done. Like this is their goal, and they did it really actually very, very well. They want to reinforce the emotional punch that they're trying to make with this one quote from this bishop. That's different than here's the entirety of what the bishop said in all its clarity and all its context. This is one quote that takes less than 20 seconds to say, with 9 minutes of packed images and music for emotion. So yeah, like I've got questions about this, where if he was told that he couldn't report, where did the system go wrong? That's not how the system works. What happened here? Why did it break down at this time? Did it actually break down? What's going on? Like those are the kinds of questions that I think are way more helpful than, oh my goodness, the church told this bishop to never help rescue these girls, which is how some of this is getting portrayed. I also think it's fair to mention, this is another document I don't have, it's secret. The Arizona grand jury took up this question last year in 2021 of, did the bishops do anything legally wrong? Grand juries don't take up moral questions, so the moral question is something different, but did they do something legally wrong? That case has a number, GJ 21-0072, if you want to look it up, but you won't find anything because the results of a grand jury are secret. I would love to also see that document. As far as I know, it's not available anyway. However, what we do know is they met last year, and those bishops have not been charged. If this was an easy, a straightforward, oh my goodness, these bishops did something wrong, do you think the grand jury is going to sit on that for any reason? They're not trying to protect the bishops. Mm-hmm. So the fact that charges have not been brought forward at this point, I think gives us a tiny peek. Which also probably leads me to the other piece that just needs to get said about all of this is an unfolding story. There's a lot that we don't know. Corrections are going to come out. Things that I have said in the last 5 days, I now know, like, oh, that's not exactly how it was. I should be saying it this way. I should be saying it differently. And that's the normal part of the process. That's how this is supposed to work. So we're going to take corrections, absolutely welcome new information, figure it out, develop some new and better questions.
Yeah.
My last point, sorry, Kurt.
You're good.
My last point is do not throw out the faith baby with the abuse bathwater, right? Even if the helpline messed up here, we can fix that. Do not let your faith become one more victim of Paul Douglas Adams, right? He's the monster here. He is the perpetrator of evil here. That evil would love to destroy your faith, and that is completely unnecessary. He does not get to win here. Absolutely not. You can hold on to your faith and still say, maybe we should fix some things. Those two things are not incompatible. Paul Douglas Adams does not win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess a follow-up question I have in, with the backdrop of our conversation we had last week for the podcast, just some information I've been hearing and maybe some further clarification is the concept of this idea that the bishop needs to call a legal line because of the legal ramifications of reporting abuse, and that some states are a non-report clergy type state. So how can we better clarify that concept?
Thank you.
Because I'll tell you what, Twitter is not happy that we said that.
I am slightly aware of that. Stay off of Twitter. I have said this poorly and contributed to that problem, and I would like to say it differently. There are no states in which reporting will ever get you legal consequences. There's no state where the state's going to come after you and prosecute you and say, you reported it and you really should have kept it secret. That is not a thing. If I have said anything that has made that seem like that's a thing, it is not. However, there are privacy issues at play. That's what's at play in the Oregon case. A woman's taking the church to court because they disclosed her husband's abuse, and it's privacy laws at play there. So no, reporting wasn't illegal there, and yet this Oregon case still isn't thrown out. She has a leg to stand on because of the laws that are there. So we need to be saying that in better ways. There is no state where that's illegal, but there are states where it gets complicated.
Yeah. And that's where legal discussion with an attorney is helpful, not because anybody's trying to hide something or not report abuse. We just need to consider all the things. And that's a tough thing is people, I feel like and again, social media, I mean, don't make me get that soapbox out. I'll stand on that soapbox if I need to, but it's so easy to sort of go to these hyperbolic stances that seem so moral of saying, who cares of the consequences? The bishop should just act. He should report. He should do these things. Why even take the step of getting legal counsel? But I've been that bishop so many times. So I really don't know what I don't know. I just need someone to talk to. And the church has a great system providing that. legal resource, and I'm going to consult with an attorney before I make any statements. And it's not because I want to protect an abuser or keep someone in a victim state. It's just complicated, right? And
it's actually in the best interest of the victim if this is done carefully, because here's what doesn't get talked about, okay? A domestic violence, and there was plenty, besides sexual abuse, there's plenty of physical abuse in this home. A domestic violence victim is in most danger of being killed or murdered by her intimate partner when she tries to leave a situation, right? Just statistically, if he's going to kill her, that's when he's going to do it. So one possible outcome of what it means to report, and if they if CPS and the police aren't thinking through this carefully, they do, but I'm just giving you this background so that people understand what happens. Like, if they had not thought through it carefully, what do you think goes on? They send a black and white police car down that dusty road that we've all seen the picture of, sirens blaring. Well, they pull up at his house. He's an incredibly violent and manipulative man. The children and the wife, I guarantee you, are going to do what victims do in that situation, which is they take their story back. That is no shame on them. Literally, I have been that person. I get it. But they think, oh, no, everything's fine here. Everything's great. The police then cannot do anything. And they get back in their car and drive away. Well, as soon as they're out of the driveway, what do you think happens to those kids?
Yeah.
Right? These things have to be thought through carefully. The cowboy, I would just go blazing in there and go rescue those kids. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if, and of course you'd say, well, I wouldn't just go in there. I'd call the police and we'd go get them. Right. But there's just so many technicalities. And again, we're not saying that the bishops in this case did everything right. We just don't have a lot of information. But my mind goes back to the Elizabeth Smart scenario where so many times she could have just ran up to somebody and said, I'm Elizabeth Smart. Here's my perpetrator, save me. But she didn't. And you hear her story and it's so understandable why she didn't just do that. And so very complicated situations. Let's take the steps and legally go after these awful predators and make sure that this never happens again. Now, again, I think maybe we shouldn't even start with this. I don't think either of us are. I think the church, the community, the mom, everybody involved in this case that the AP article is talking about, there's a whole lot of drop balls, and it is horrible, and it should never happen like this ever again.
Yeah, there is. This does not take it. If the helpline gave the wrong advice, this is not to take away from that, but there is blame here in so many directions. The judge himself in this case says this woman had more opportunities to rescue her children than any other woman in a situation like this, including an incredibly eager family to help her who had resources to do so and was willing to do so, including an entire ward that had resources and help for her, including her husband sometimes being gone for months at a time. And she didn't. So let's look at the entire picture. Let's fix what we can fix. Do not let Paul Adams be the evil idiot who ruins your faith.
Yeah.
He does not. He's already ruined a lot. He ruined those girls' lives. Yeah. Don't let him ruin yours too.
Yeah. And then another point of this is, as the AP keeps releasing information, it's sort of seems like people like us, or people that want to understand, we're playing catch up, right? But the reality is the AP holds all the cards here, and I hope they do keep releasing more information. The more information we can get on this case, the better, right? Yeah. And I just think we can point at this situation and saying, church dropped the ball, the system broke down, it didn't work. And I have no doubt that in the future, it's going to work better because we have this information.
Yeah, we are not adversaries to the AP. I want them to release information. I would love to have all of the documents that they have, right? Let's do it. Let's answer the questions. Let's figure out the problem and fix it. In the next days and weeks, more information is going to come out. That's probably the only thing I can promise you. More information is going to come out. More things that have already been said are going to need to get said differently, and that's okay. We don't know what we don't know. We are the ones behind the 8 ball right now. We are the ones who are reacting, and we're doing what we can do to give context and help and hope.
Yeah. So from my perspective, here's a few perspectives and opinions that have solidified for me is,
yeah.
I think we can approach this case, this article, this information, and condemn it, the situation for what it was, the abuser for what he was, the situations that happened, which were so unfortunate. And it's so easy to then try and fix it by saying that's why this helpline is awful, or the lay leadership is awful. But in order to have an adult conversation about this situation of saying this is an outlier, it shouldn't have happened this way, it's awful. But we also have to admit that this system, and I've seen it firsthand, this helpline, this process, this lay leadership model has saved and protected numerous victims or potential victims. And we have to set that foundation, and then we can talk about the case, right?
I have heard stories from people in the last days of like, oh yeah, it goes wrong. And look here is how I got help from this. Here is how things went right. I know I won't tell the story because it's a personal friend, but I have a personal friend who has been through a similar situation like this, and it turned out right. They did the absolute right thing. Yes. So we need to be telling more of those stories too.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Anything else that we haven't mentioned that we talked about in our first interview as far as corrections or adjustments that we didn't make?
You know, that's really the only things I see at this point to correct. I have more questions than I had before. And I think it's okay to have questions, things we don't know, things we have to speculate on.
Yeah.
That's
what are some of your top questions that you have at this point?
To be honest, I still would like to know, what exactly did the helpline say and when? What did the bishops actually know and when? Those are my biggest pieces of information that we don't know. And when you read through the court documents, it's in part because of the mom's super, super, super untruthful testimony that it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about what they knew and what they didn't know. I wish we had that information, right? I wish we had the entire list of what were all of the people in this ward doing to try and help it and rescue this family. Right. Yeah. I also wish we had the list of like, where were the school teachers in this? Where were the other, like the other people in the community who may have known about this? Like, how did those balls get dropped? Not to take away blame from where blame actually belongs. Like, let's figure out what happened and fix it. Everybody wants a magic bullet. It's the helpline.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but it's not just that.
Right. Yeah. And then we touched on that in our interview that it's a recipe of different things that's going to help the next potential victim, right? That we got to come together, and unfortunately there will be more victims in the future, but man, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that's at a minimum. So.
Yeah. And that's our track record, right? That the church already has procedures and policies in place, even the ones that are kind of unknown to people, that keep kids safe and have kept many, many kids safe. And we can improve, right?
Yep.
A little better every day.
Cool. All right. We that's a good update. Maybe we'll be back here in another few days or something, but I think it's good to, especially from, Leading Saints, we're not the platform that usually gets into like current events or news stories, but I think this week as leaders, we can learn a lot from this situation and just understanding the process in general as we go forward. So here's a comment here. An important point to remember: figuring out what went wrong and fix it, and keep the real blame where it belongs with the perpetrator. Thanks for the reminder. That's exactly the sort of your core message that you're trying to remind people.
I mean, that's how I got through my own abuse crisis.
Yeah.
Right. That guy doesn't get to take my faith away from me. That's my birthright. You don't get to take that. Paul Davis, Adams, whatever, he does not get to take that away from you. Do not let him.
Yeah. Jesus still saves. So awesome. Well, thanks, Jen.
Yeah, you bet.